You can learn a surprising amount about someone in the first 10 minutes of meeting them. Not from their clothes, not from their job title, not even from what they say about themselves, but from the small, almost invisible choices they make in ordinary moments. The moment when someone interrupts them, the moment when a waiter makes a mistake, the moment when the conversation suddenly becomes uncomfortable. Most people think character reveals itself in big moments, in crises, in dramatic decisions, but in reality, character shows up quietly, in everyday situations where no one thinks they're being judged. And once you start noticing these small signals, you begin to see them everywhere, at restaurants, at meetings, at family gatherings. So today, let's talk about a few subtle habits that quietly reveal the kind of person someone really is. Let's begin. Number 1. How they react when someone disagrees with them. This is one of the fastest ways to understand someone's maturity. You'll notice two types of reactions. The first type immediately becomes defensive. The tone shifts. Suddenly, the conversation isn't about ideas anymore. It becomes about winning. You can learn a surprising amount about someone in the first 10 minutes of meeting them. Not from their clothes, not from their job title, not even from what they say about themselves, but from the small, almost invisible choices they make in ordinary moments. The moment when someone interrupts them, the moment when a waiter makes a mistake, the moment when the conversation suddenly becomes uncomfortable. Most people think character reveals itself in big moments, in crises, in dramatic decisions, but in reality, character shows up quietly, in everyday situations where no one thinks they're being judged. And once you start noticing these small signals, you begin to see them everywhere, at restaurants, at meetings, at family gatherings. So today, let's talk about a few subtle habits that quietly reveal the kind of person someone really is. Let's begin. Number 1. How they react when someone disagrees with them. This is one of the fastest ways to understand someone's maturity. You'll notice two types of reactions. The first type immediately becomes defensive. The tone shifts. Suddenly, the conversation isn't about ideas anymore. It becomes about winning. They interrupt. They talk louder. They try to prove the other person wrong. But then there's the second type. When someone disagrees with them, they pause for a moment. Not a dramatic pause, just a small one. They listen. Sometimes they even say something simple like, "That's interesting. I hadn't thought about it that way." That small response reveals something powerful. Secure people don't panic when their ideas are challenged, because their identity isn't built on being right all the time. It's built on curiosity, and curiosity is one of the quietest signs of intelligence. Number 2. How they treat people who can do nothing for them. This one has been talked about many times, but most people still underestimate how revealing it is. Watch how someone treats the receptionist, the waiter, the delivery driver, the security guard in the lobby. These are moments where social status disappears, where kindness becomes purely optional. Some people only become polite when they are speaking to someone important. Their tone changes depending on who they think matters. But people with strong character tend to behave differently. Their tone stays consistent. They speak to the CEO and the waiter with the same level of basic respect. Not because they are trying to impress anyone, but because respect, to them, isn't something you switch on and off. It's simply how they move through the world. Number 3. What they do when the conversation isn't about them. You've probably experienced this before. You're telling a story. Halfway through, the other person interrupts with their own story that's slightly bigger, slightly more dramatic. Suddenly, the conversation has quietly shifted. What started as your moment somehow becomes theirs. This habit is surprisingly common. Some people feel uncomfortable when attention isn't on them, so they redirect it. But there's another type of person who does something much more subtle. They let you finish. They ask a question, and the strange thing is, people like this often become the most respected person in the room. Because making space for others is one of the rarest social skills. And people remember how you make them feel long after they forget what was said. Number 4. How they behave when something small goes wrong. Small inconveniences are incredibly revealing. A coffee order comes out wrong, a flight is delayed, the meeting starts 20 minutes late. None of these situations are serious. But watch closely. Some people react as if the universe has personally offended them. Their mood collapses. They complain loudly. Everyone around them can feel the tension. But others respond very differently. They shrug. They laugh. They adapt, because they understand something simple about life. Minor inconveniences are not personal attacks. They're just part of living in a world where things don't always go according to plan. And emotional stability often shows itself most clearly in these tiny moments. Number 5. How comfortable they are with silence. If a conversation pauses for more than 3 seconds, someone rushes to fill the gap. They start talking quickly, sometimes about nothing at all. But confident people often treat silence differently. They allow it. They don't rush to fill every quiet moment with noise, because they're comfortable with their own presence. And interestingly, people who are comfortable with silence tend to make others feel calmer as well. The conversation feels more natural, more thoughtful, less like a performance. Number 6. How they respond when someone else succeeds. Success can reveal something unexpected about people. You would think someone's own success would define their character. But sometimes it's how they respond to someone else's success that tells the real story. When a colleague gets promoted, when a friend achieves something impressive, when someone in the room receives recognition. Some people respond with polite words, but subtle tension, a forced smile, a quick change of subject. But others respond with genuine enthusiasm. They celebrate the moment. They ask questions. They show real happiness for the other person. And that reaction reveals something powerful. People who feel secure in their own path rarely feel threatened by someone else's progress. They understand that success is not a limited resource. Number 7. How they speak about people who aren't present. This habit quietly reveals someone's integrity. You're sitting with someone, and the conversation turns to a third person who isn't there. Maybe a coworker, maybe a mutual friend. And suddenly the tone changes. Criticism appears. The conversation becomes gossip. Now, everyone occasionally talks about other people. That's human. But pay attention to the pattern. Some individuals consistently speak negatively about others when they're not around. And the uncomfortable truth is this. If someone regularly criticizes others behind their backs, there's a good chance they do the same when you leave the room. But people with strong character usually handle these situations differently. They keep their comments neutral, or they redirect the conversation entirely, because they understand that reputation travels in quiet ways. Number 8. How they admit when they're wrong. This may be the most revealing habit of all. Making a mistake is normal. Everyone does it. But the response to that mistake is where character becomes visible. Some people avoid accountability at all costs. They blame circumstances. They blame other people. They create explanations that protect their image. But then there are people who do something refreshingly simple. They say, "You're right. That was my mistake." No long defense. No excuses. And ironically, the people who admit mistakes easily often gain the most respect. Because honesty signals confidence. It tells the world that protecting the truth matters more than protecting the ego. And here's the interesting part. None of these habits are dramatic. They don't happen in grand speeches or life-changing moments. They appear quietly, in conversations, in small social interactions that most people barely notice. But once you begin paying attention to these signals, something fascinating happens. You start understanding people more quickly. You notice who brings calm energy into a room, and who quietly drains it. You notice who lifts others up, and who constantly competes for attention. And perhaps most importantly, you begin noticing these habits in yourself. Because character is not something we're born with. It's something we build through hundreds of small choices every day. So now I'm curious, which of these habits have you noticed the most in real life? Tell me in the comments. And if you enjoy exploring the hidden signals behind human behavior, social intelligence, and everyday psychology, make sure to like the video and subscribe. There's always more to notice than we first realize. Until next time, stay thoughtful and stay aware.